Yes, very happy.
We have everybody here? Almost, yeah.
Oh, wait.
All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call to order the regular meeting of the Pflugerville City Council, March 25th at 7 p.m. If you will join me in the pledges and moment of silence, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. You may be seated. Our next item is public comment. In accordance with the Texas Attorney General's opinion, any public comment that is made on an item that is not on the published agenda will only be heard by the City Council. No formal action, discussion, deliberation, or comment will be made by the City Council. Each person providing public comment will be limited to 3 minutes. I have one person that signed up. Alan, the floor is yours.
Good evening, Mayor Gonzalez and City Council members. My name is Alan McLeod, and I'm here to give you an update on what the Pflugerville Veteran Advisory Task Force is currently working on. We are asking for nominees from the citizens of Pflugerville to recognize one veteran and one spouse/family member who shows strength, exceptional service in our community. The criteria and timeline is listed in the handouts that I provided for y'all. Our task force will honor the winners with a plaque. We ask the City Council to consider an official award ceremony at a City Council meeting or a Veterans Day event or special luncheon, and a proclamation from the mayor declaring a day in their honor. Feel free to look the packet over, and if you have any questions, I am here for you.
I'm sorry, Alan, repeat the qualifications again. I know you said that early on. The nominee would be?
The nominee would be...
Candidate would?
Oh, well, they would have to be a resident of the Pflugerville community. And for the veterans, they would have to have served in the military. And the veteran spouses, 1 second. For Pflugerville Veteran of the Year, it must be a veteran of the U.S. Armed Forces, honorably discharged, retired, must be a resident of the Pflugerville community or actively involved in the veteran community, must have made significant contributions to the community through volunteerism or leadership, and cannot be a current elected official, but may be involved in veteran organizations.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. You have it. All right, anything else?
That's it, sir.
All right, thank you very much for that presentation. We appreciate it. I'm sure you'll get someone who's worthy.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else wishing to make public comment? This is your chance. Okay. Let's see, I guess I have 3 proclamations. So this evening, I would like to recognize, and actually as part of the proclamation, the Healthy Kids Running Series, which is a national community-based nonprofit and currently has close to 300 programs nationwide. The Pflugerville Healthy Kids Running Series started in spring of 2023. The program is designed for kids to get active, feel accomplished, and lay the foundation for a healthy lifestyle. Therefore, I proclaim April 2025 as Healthy Kids Running Month in the city of Pflugerville, and Ray Trevino is here to accept that proclamation. Ray, is there anything you'd like to share with our guests?
Our program starts this coming Sunday at 1849 Park here in Pflugerville. We start at 2 o'clock. Everybody's invited. And there is some flyers in the back there if you guys would like to get one. But everybody's invited. We want volunteers. We want kids. Everybody's accepted.
Yeah, bring your kids out.
Yes.
All right. You want to step over here?
You said 1849 Park?
1849 Park. Thank you.
Our next proclamation is regarding our Volunteer Appreciation Month, which is an opportunity to recognize those who have given of themselves. Volunteers selflessly invest their time, talents, and resources in the lives of others. We would like to say thank you to all individuals, groups, and businesses who have given time, energy, and resources to their communities through volunteer service. I proclaim April 2025 as Volunteer Appreciation Month in the city of Pflugerville. And this evening we have the distinguished group of our Community on Patrol members to receive that proclamation. If you'll come forward.
Is there no way to shift this, guys, so
No.
Doug doesn't have to?
No.
This is not ours. This is
We
not
just-
ours.
This is how I get my
His watch tells him.
It's like,
Gotcha. I like it. I like it. Y'all looking real good. Oh yeah, get in the photo.
Yeah.
What time of photos?
Someone was
Yeah.
volunteering.
Thanks so much.
Awesome. Thank you.
And well, this must be the month of exercise. So if you don't have kids that are running, certainly we should have adults that are walking. So this evening, the National Take a Walk in the Park serves as a reminder for residents to embrace an active lifestyle and take advantage of the beautiful parks in our city. Pflugerville's public trail system spans for more than 60 miles in the city limits, with another 10 plus miles in the ETJ. The city of Pflugerville invites all residents to celebrate this day by stepping outside, enjoying a walk in local parks, and recognizing the essential role that spaces play in community well-being. I proclaim March 30th, 2025 as Take a Walk in the Park Day in the city of Pflugerville. And this evening we have Tom Cotter to accept the proclamation, founder and CEO of Backpack Friends, and member of the walking group,
Awesome.
Rebel 90. And I think you have an additional member.
thank you. So, real quick, just want to say thank you. This is kind of like when Larry King told his 8th wife, this won't take long. We wanted to start walking because there's so many medical and scientific benefits to that. Everything from building bones to cardiovascular to reducing dementia and Alzheimer's and diabetes and all those things. We suffer still from the pandemic, from isolation, and it's been such a great way to bring community together in a community that has such a great park system. And so I want to say thank you for all that you do.
You bet. All right. All I got to say is enjoy the trail capital of the world. Well, actually, the state.
We got a world. For nothing.
Okay. Our next item, which is just as exciting as everything we've had this evening, is to conduct a presentation of our PF 101 class of 2025 graduation.
Yeah.
Catherine.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Council. My name is Catherine Terry. I'm the assistant to the city manager. And tonight I'm excited to introduce you our sixth PF 101 class, the PF 101 class of 2025. PF 101 is an annual 9-week program that offers 20 residents an in-depth look at our city's operations, from essential infrastructure like water and wastewater systems to the varying community programs we offer. Tonight we have Tracy Negrete, the president of 2025 PF 101 class, here to share her insights and experiences on the class. Tracy?
Thank you. All right, thank you. Hi, Mayor. Hi, City Council. I'm honored to be here, and thank you for this opportunity to represent the PF 101 class of 2025. I'd like to start with first congratulating the graduates of our class. You can see all of them listed here, and we do have several of them in attendance for this particular graduation session. A few of the highlights from our class that I wanted to point out really are the fun things that we did. Touring the animal shelter. We had a dog join us for the class. Of course, that was fantastic. And just really seeing how the animal shelter is run, and the great care that that team does to help take care of our furry friends. And then also we had a behind-the-scenes tour of the public library, which was great. We often go in and check out books, but we don't always get to see what happens to make all of that happen for us as a community and all the extra things that the library does for our community. We also were challenged by the finance department with a board game where we had to figure out how to make everything happen, and it was a little bit tricky to get all of the needs and the wants taken care of. That was something we learned. And then in the picture that you see, we're actually doing an activity that the planning team had us do around planning our community and what we would like to see if we were to redesign and reevaluate a downtown community. So that was a great activity for us to do, and I'll go forward. And on this slide and the one that follows it, what you will see are comments that the class members from PF 101 shared with me as I asked them for feedback and input to go here, because this isn't about me, it's about all of them as well. And they shared a lot of great insights. A few themes that I'd like to just address here too that come from these insights are around building education and awareness of what happens within our city. There was a lot of aha moments that took place and activities that allowed us to learn. And then the community involvement, hearing how each department of our city looks to the community to provide insights and feedback on what they need to do and get the community involved in those activities. And then also shared was truly appreciation for the staff of this city. So we got to really learn from them, meet them, and see the passion that they have for the city and making it a great place to live. We also learned about the complexity of the city operations and what goes on, from funding to planning and how those things don't always align sometimes when you need them to. And so you can see that that's listed here, and I'll go to the next slide so you can just see what is on this one as well. And then there also, coming out of it all, there's a motivation from our class to be giving back to the community through contributing here and getting involved in other ways, whether it be on a board or a commission or attending activities or filling out surveys to give that community feedback that you all are asking for. And as you read some of these, the sentiments that really stuck out to me were of gratitude and respect and admiration for the staff of the city and the people that we got to meet with. And then also the class participants feeling empowered and motivated to give back to the community in a new way. And then I'd also like to share some of our insights from the participants. So as a program goal, really wanting to look to develop community advocates and driving civic engagement. And I'd like to just highlight here that there were times that, people would share saying that they found themselves in a position to clarify information that they might have seen online, or somebody had a question and they were able to now be informed to share the information or point that person in the right direction. And that just happened in the span of 9 weeks that, we all felt empowered to do that. And so we feel like there's an opportunity to drive even more engagement within the city through PF 101. Second would be a call to action. So several members of the class expressed a desire to have a structured information session on what the next steps might be if they were interested in participating in a commission or a board within the city. And so that could be something that comes next for us, or something that could be structured would be a great thing to add. And then additionally, some class participants even wanted to take it a step further and be able to participate in some type of a capstone project where they could give back to the community in a meaningful way through a project. And it could be something that they might need to opt in for because maybe their time doesn't allow for an extended project or something along those lines. But I thought it was worth sharing that was something that participants in the class were interested in doing. And then lastly on this slide, what I wanted to share is that there's enthusiasm for building further connection and keeping this engagement going. So our class would like to spearhead an alumni network for past and future PF 101 classes. So that is something that our class would like to do, and we'll stay in connection with Catherine on how we could potentially do that. And then in closing, I really would like to say thank you. This opportunity and the investment that you all and that the city leaders and teams that many are here today make to us as participants. It's a huge amount of time, and it's going to get a lot out of this group, I hope. Our class is grateful to all of the presenters for their time and dedication to making this a great program, and I'd like to extend a huge thank you to Catherine Terry. She was amazing at coordinating, keeping us on track, keeping us informed. So we're very thankful to have her serving in this capacity. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, all I can say is congratulations. Actually, that's not all I can say, but I would certainly, and I'm very impressed with, and I went out and met a few of the PF 101 graduates. I'm not sure if I met everybody, but if I didn't, I apologize. Some faces I'm very familiar with. And I think it's very important since we've started this. I like the alumni networking piece, especially where you can go back and connect with past classes and graduates, because I think that keeps everybody in tune. I know this class probably got a lot of information that, wasn't even around 16 years ago or 10 years ago in terms of municipal services, operations, administration. The only thing you weren't privileged to was an executive session with the city council, and so you might have learned some really cool things there. Before I got elected, I always thought the city council went into executive session to eat cookies and cake. Well, we do eat cookies, but we do other things too. So thank you very much, graduates. I think in one piece of the presentation, boards and commissions were mentioned. I would highly, highly recommend that you consider looking at an appointment to one of the boards and commissions that are coming up in December. Certainly someone who has gone through this class, who understands the operations of a city, this city, okay, is much better prepared than someone who just comes fresh out of the neighborhood, so to speak. But so I do encourage you to do that, and I hope that at some time in the future you take the step a bit further and perhaps consider running for city council. Thank you.
I would like to point out that there are openings on some of the commissions and boards right now, so there's opportunity to apply now.
Thank you.
Any other council members wish to make comments?
We got one opening next time, city council. There are always opportunities to serve, and I want to thank you for
taking the initiative to get involved in this program, which will hopefully lead some of you, if not all of you, to even greater service with the city. We're really excited to see even more citizens get involved. It's part of what makes our city so amazing.
It's interesting to see the iterations of things, to think about where this started, and now we're having a conversation about we want an alumni association. And we want to get, we want to get gardening. But it's pretty awesome to see, how this is going. And you guys, you are the best folks we have out there advocating on our behalf over there, because you're involved, deeply involved community and caring about that. So God bless you. So I appreciate it for what you've done. Looking forward to seeing what you're going to do in the future, and the energy, man, that's real. That's awesome.
No, it's safe to say this is a big step. I mean, we have this on our application for boards and commissions. And did you attend PF 101? And if you didn't, you're going to get grilled by us. Why haven't you not attended this? It's a big step, and thank you for taking the time to do this. And run for office, come after us, and take our seats because
and eat cookies in executive session.
Yes.
Tea and crumpets.
And Catherine, thank you very much for all your work in this. We appreciate it. Thank you for putting it and keeping it together.
Of course. Mayor, we are going to take a picture with all the graduates right now, if that's okay with you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Just, you're good.
Oh, I know. 30 years, we've always done it. Depends on well, it depends on the year. Like sometimes we sit, sometimes with them, sometimes we're not.
I mean, I understand, but I'm first. We telling her that I'm just there
Hey, to be fair, that's the first thing I noticed. Yeah, that's true.
She needs to know that.
Yeah, that's literally the first thing I
She
noticed.
doesn't have to, but she does.
She does.
Because she likes
She keeps us in check and shames
But
us.
she was running. Are you in there?
She doesn't.
In the photo?
Kim is throwing bows.
No, I'm saying get in the photo. Look how she looking. So no.
Hey, look at that friend.
Which one's up?
We can't, I don't know how to get it.
Trista, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Read the consent agenda.
Yes, no. It's like,
Like 5G.
are you sure 5G's on the agenda?
No, we don't have a budget.
No, we don't. I don't see 5G. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay.
Okay, item 5G is pulled from the consent agenda. 5A is approving an ordinance on first reading with the caption reading an ordinance amending and updating the City of Pflugerville Code of Ordinances, Title III, Administration, Chapter 37, Municipal Court Funds by adding a local consolidation fund, a truancy fund, and a municipal jury fund, and revising all municipal court fund allocations in accordance with the local consolidation fund parameters, providing cumulative repealer and severability clauses, providing for open meeting, and establishing an effective date. 5B, approving an ordinance on first reading with the caption reading an ordinance amending and updating the City of Pflugerville Code of Ordinances, Title III, Administration by adding Chapter 40, Municipal Court Juvenile Case Coordinator, providing cumulative repealer and severability clauses, providing for open meeting, and establishing an effective date. 5C is approving an ordinance on second reading with the caption reading an ordinance of the City of Pflugerville, Texas, amending the City of Pflugerville, Texas Code of Ordinances, Chapter 72, regarding speed limits on FM 685 in the city limits of the City of Pflugerville, defining speeding and fixing a penalty therefore, declaring what may be a sufficient complaint and prosecutions hereunder, with a saving clause, repealing conflicting laws, and declaring an emergency. And again, item 5G has been removed from the consent agenda. All remaining items may be acted upon in a single motion.
I move approval of the consent agenda.
I think we already have a second. Yeah. Sorry, David.
I'm going to vote no just because of that.
All right. Motion carried. Thank you very much. All right, moving on to item 6, public hearing ordinance. 6A is conduct a public hearing and consider approving an ordinance on first reading with the caption reading, an ordinance of the City of Pflugerville, Texas, amending ordinance number 1203-15-02-24 of the City of Pflugerville, Texas, as amended by adding the general business 1 GB1 zoning district to approximately 0.5897 acres and the retail zoning district to 0.8549 acres, all being a portion of Lot B, Block A, amended plat of Lot 4, Block A, and re-subdivision of Lot 2, Block A, Springbrook Commercial Subdivision in Travis County, Texas, to be known as the Schultz Lane zoning, providing for a repeal of the conflicting ordinances, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. Doctor.
That was a mouthful.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Dr. Yasmin Turk, and I'm the Planning Manager for the City of Pflugerville. This is a zoning case, and the subject property is located along the south side of Schultz Lane, east of A.W. Grimes Boulevard, and north of Pflugerville Parkway. The Springbrook residential subdivision is located to the east of the property. In 2009, the city began expanding Pflugerville Parkway to 4 lanes and connecting it to Green Lawn Boulevard. As part of this project, Schultz Lane was realigned, shifting its connection from near A.W. Grimes Boulevard to a new alignment north of the intersection, as you can see in the second image. This realignment involved a land transaction where the city exchanged the former Schultz Lane right-of-way for the land needed for the new road. The acquired land was zoned general business, later split into general business 1, while the former right-of-way was conveyed unzoned. The proposed request is to apply zoning to the former Schultz Lane right-of-way to enable future development of the exchanged property. The applicant has worked with staff to propose a split zoning, aligning with adjacent zoning and ensuring compatibility with the nearby single-family neighborhood to the east. Specifically, 0.8549 acres would be zoned retail to better integrate with the Springbrook Glen residential neighborhood, while the remaining 0.5897 acres would be zoned general business 1 to support future commercial development consistent with the commercial area to the west. The subject property is situated between A.W. Grimes Boulevard and a single-family neighborhood, as well as between Schultz Lane and Pflugerville Parkway. There are several commercial uses already established near that intersection of Pflugerville Parkway and A.W. Grimes. There's new commercial development along the north side of Schultz Lane, which includes a Starbucks coffee shop, the Starbucks coffee shop, and a future daycare facility. GB1 and retail are designed to be near arterial roadways and provide services to nearby residential areas. And the future land use map from the Aspire Pflugerville 2040 Comprehensive Plan identifies the area as neighborhood retail, office commercial, as reflected here. The subject property is located within the Upper West Side District, which includes aspirational actions to enhance pedestrian accessibility and safety, as well as access to goods and services to the residents in the area. The proposed zoning accommodates suitable land uses at both the neighborhood and regional levels while ensuring compatibility and pedestrian access. This zoning allows a limited extension of the adjacent GB1 district for regional commercial development while zoning the remainder of the property closer to the neighborhood as retail to ensure neighborhood scale development. The proposal aligns with the neighborhood retail office commercial retail classification in the comprehensive plan. Staff recommends approval to zone 0.5897 acres to GB1 and 0.8549 acres to retail. On March 3rd of 2025, the Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously recommended approval of the zoning without any brabble and a vote of 5-0. I'm happy to answer any questions, and the applicant is here as well.
Well, I'm glad we're making good use of that swatch of property there. It's just been there.
Yeah.
Council, do you have any questions?
There's often a lot of conversation, or I've heard some about the traffic right there. Any thoughts around that? There was a lot of conversation when just the Starbucks, when it seemed to go okay.
Yeah, that was on Neumeister.
Yeah. Right, and you're also going to be messing with the coyotes.
We hear a lot from the citizens in that area.
Okay.
That's why.
Well, as one of the citizens who lives in that area,
So we hear a lot from the citizens over there.
let me say the coyote problem is real. But I think actually, if we develop that empty field there, it actually will reduce the likelihood of problems with the coyotes. It looks like a perfectly reasonable development to me. It's right next to the 7-Eleven. Across the street, there's another gas station, and there's a car wash, and there's a number of retail facilities. There's a CVS catty corner from where this new zoning is going to be. It doesn't seem to me like it will impinge on the neighborhood. I think it probably will provide opportunities for additional services for people who live right over there, and it looks like an excellent plan. And that the Schultz, I know there was concern about the Starbucks going in, but because of the way the entrance is worked in there, it's very easy for people to get in and out. There's adequate parking, and I think that the concerns that people had ahead of time have been allayed by the way that it's actually been developed. So I think this is something we ought to do.
Is there anybody in the public wishing to make comment on this or advocate for the coyotes? Okay.
Maybe the Bobcats.
My question would be how would you recommend?
Please give your name and.
My name is Stephanie Phillips, and I live close to that area.
Okay.
How would you guys rectify the situation as far as coming out of Starbucks? I know oftentimes I have to wait 5 to 7, 10 minutes just to get through that way. If I want to turn left, I might as well just turn right because make a U-turn. So how would they implement, like, get traffic lights, or what would be that? How would we do that with traffic? So that would be it.
Thank you. I'm not sure what the specific development will be, and I'll have to look into the current situation with the Starbucks and see if there's anything that is in the works or something that has been identified as an issue or something we need to look into as an issue, and I can follow up with that later.
That's the only question I had, is that what is the neighborhood, along what Kim was talking, like, we've heard from that neighborhood numerous times. Have we talked to them, have feedback? I know you just said that you think they're cool with this.
And there's more
I do-
commercial traffic.
I mean, turning left off of Schultz onto A.W. Grimes can sometimes be a real chore. And like the young lady suggested, I often just turn right and then find another place to turn around. Or rather than coming out on Schultz Lane, I'll come out on Kilkenny and then go down to Grand Avenue Parkway where there is a light. And that's the other way out for people in the neighborhood. I mean, Schultz Lane it's never going to be easy to turn left there during times of high traffic. And that's,
Is
7:30 in the morning till 9 o'clock and, 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock at night.
So I know our police chief is here, law enforcement is represented. Do we have any indications, chief or doctor, of what type of collision incidents we've had at that location?
We need to pull that information.
Okay.
Unless, Chief, you happen to have that off the top of your head. No, ma'am. No.
Okay.
We can
Well,
pull
thank
that
you.
in the Friday.
And somebody who lives there and drives through those intersections a lot, I can tell you there are a lot of accidents where the light is, not where the A.W. Grimes and Schultz intersection is, but there are a lot of accidents at the corner, at the intersection of Grand Avenue Parkway and Pflugerville Parkway. It's disturbing how frequent they are, and they are sometimes really horrific. But not at the Schultz and A.W. Grimes. It's a slow turn either way, a lot of times. But I have only seen one accident at the A.W. Grimes Schultz intersection. Now, I'm not there 24/7, and I'd be happy to be corrected if I'm wrong. But it seems to me that actually the A.W. Grimes Schultz intersection is less likely to be a place where you get hit than Grand Avenue and Pflugerville Parkway.
So this development will have to go through a traffic impact analysis as well, just as a reminder. But we were already committed to we're going to evaluate and identify. We do recognize that that's problematic.
I was going to say,
Duly noted.
It's March 25th, 2025. Mark Downey actually agreed with David. Literally at Pflugerville Parkway, Mary got it too as well last year. I had a friend of mine, horrific accident. And she said that she had witnessed that, several times over there. And I'm glad staff and everybody's looking at that. So I'm not quite sure what's happening at that intersection.
Probably some of those Round Rock drivers or something.
I did want to respond to your question, Councilmember, about the neighborhood. As you see, we have posted and we have not heard any response from the neighbors, any issues or concerns expressed. And also, if you see the way that it is designed, the retail is kind of that buffer area between the neighborhood to kind of give that transition between the single-family residential retail before you get into the GB1 designation.
Okay, any other questions, comments? We get a motion to close.
So moved. Second.
A motion, second to close the public hearing. Motion carried. Can we get a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve 6A.
Second. Motion carried. Thank you. All right, regular agenda, item 7A. Conduct a presentation and discuss and consider action approving a resolution accepting the FY24 audit.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tracy Waldron, Finance Director. I have with me as Senior Manager Brandon Tran with Weaver and Tidwell, and there is a presentation on the audit.
Thank you all for the opportunity to speak about the FY24 audit. Like I said, I'm Brandon Tran with Weaver and Tidwell. I'll try to keep this brief for y'all. So, summary of the presentation, we're going to go over our auditor's opinion and then talk about some of our findings for the audit this year, and then go over some of the annual report highlights, and then our required communications with governance. So summary of the auditor's opinion. Our auditor's opinion, if you've gotten to take a look at the ACFR, is on page 3. This is where we talk about our opinion for the financial audit. Again, this is the audit for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2024. We have issued an unmodified opinion. In layman's terms, that is a clean opinion. That's the highest level assurance that we can provide y'all. And that's basically saying we believe with reasonable assurance that the financial statements are free from material misstatement. The only other thing on this auditor's opinion that we want to point out is the emphasis of matter. We did have a prior period adjustment posted to the financial statements to reclass some accounts receivable between the enterprise funds, which we'll go into a little bit more detail later on. In the back of the ACR, around page 145 or so, we have our schedule of findings and question costs. This is where we would disclose any significant deficiencies in internal controls or any material weaknesses that we've identified as part of the audit. This year, we have a significant deficiency and a material weakness over internal controls over financial reporting, which we'll go into a little bit more detail. But this is also where we list the summary of our audit results. So again, unmodified opinion, clean opinion. We've identified a material weakness and a significant deficiency. And as part of our audit, we also test compliance with certain grants and other standards, and we found no non-compliance during our audit. In addition to the financial audit, we also do what we call a single audit. And so for any entity that expends more than $750,000 in federal expenditures, we have to do a single audit. We look at the compliance of your federal programs. And so this year we looked at the ARPA money, or CLFRF money. It's kind of stemmed from COVID relief. And we found no issues with that, issued a unmodified opinion on the major program and found no instances of noncompliance and no deficiencies in controls related to that major program. Now going into the findings, again, we had a significant deficiency in internal controls. Now, we don't offer an opinion over internal controls, but we do review them just to make sure everything is lined, prevents any kind of misstatements, and then we offer any suggestions to improve on those internal controls. So this year, during our audit, we found that a member of the finance department was able to create vendors and then issue checks up to $10,000 without approval. We tested it and found no instances of this actually occurring, but the fact that the opportunity exists creates a control deficiency in this case. And really the cause of this is being short-staffed in the finance department. There's a lot of turnover this year in the finance department, so with the lack of employees with the knowledge to review all the transactions, it creates this lack of segregation of duties. And we brought this to the attention of Tracy and her team, and they have already started to implement more in-depth security procedures and kind of taking a look at your security access to the financial system and implementing more controls in that space. And I think they now have the staff to kind of help in that area. And the second finding we have is a financial statement finding. It's a material weakness in internal controls. And the reason for this one is because we had to post adjustments that were above our material threshold as part of our audit. So we found that there was retainage that was not being booked on the financial statements related to your construction projects. So we recommended management post that adjustment to record retainage payables for the wastewater fund and the capital projects fund. In addition to that, the city has an agreement with the PCDC, the Development Corporation, to get payments from the PCDC to pay for debt service on bonds that the city took out for the Development Corporation, and that note was not on the financial statements in the previous year, so we recommended an entry to post that adjustment and book that note. And then lastly, like we mentioned with the emphasis of matter, we did book a prior period adjustment, and that prior period adjustment just recognizes the accounts receivable for the solid waste fund. If you recall, in 2022, I believe, y'all established the solid waste fund and transferred the activity from the wastewater fund. And this just creates the beginning accounts receivable for the solid waste fund. And again, I think the cause of this is the turnover in the finance department, which management has created additional processes and utilizing the financial system to try to book these entries, and as part of their year-end procedures, we'll be booking retainage and then making sure all pertinent accounts are booked. Okay, so that's a summary of our findings. Just to go over a couple of highlights on the financials. This is your statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balances for your governmental funds. So this will be your general fund, debt service, capital projects, and any special revenue funds. Just a reminder, these are on modified accrual, so it's not revenues are only recognized when they're measurable and available. And that is contrary to full accrual. So here, just to highlight, your excess of revenues over expenditures is about an $18 million deficiency, and that really stems from spending down your bond funds in the capital projects fund. You can see the $16.9 million was in the capital projects funds specifically. And then your ending fund balance for your governmental funds was about $495 million. That's down from $506 in the prior year, and about $21 million of that $495 million is unrestricted or unassigned, which basically is not restricted to a specific purpose. The city can use it however they want. This is your statement of revenues and expenses for your proprietary funds, and this is a wastewater, water fund, and your solid waste fund. The key thing, just want to note here that overall your operating income was positive $20 million for this year, which is a very healthy activity approximately for the year. And then overall net position increased by about 25 million for this year after any transfers and investment income. This is a summary, like the financial statements for the PCDC. Sorry, it's a little hard to read, it's kind of small. The only thing I really wanted to show here was under the long-term debt, that's where we recognize the additional notes payable to the city. And then we've also recognized a deferred outflow for the same amount. That should be the big differences that you guys see this year. And then this is a summary of the government-wide financial statements. So these are your full accrual. This includes all of the debt, all the capital assets of the city. You can see total net position of the entire city was about 450 million versus 388 million in the prior year. Okay, some of our required communications. We do have to just state that we are here to express an opinion on the financial statements and to give reasonable assurance that they are, fairly presented in accordance to GAAP. They are free of material misstatement. We are required to consider internal controls and review those and make any suggestions that we come up with, and then provide any findings for significant deficiencies and material weaknesses. The planned scope and timing of the audit, this is consistent with what we disclosed in our engagement letter, and then I believe in December we sent a letter out to y'all explaining our timeline for the audit, and it's consistent with that. We are required just to disclose that we've complied with all ethical requirements regarding independence with the city. And then significant risks identified. We're required to disclose any significant risks that we've found. I will caveat that it sounds bad, but we did not find any, there's no findings related to these. As part of our risk assessment, we have to identify what could possibly go wrong. It's not to say we found these things wrong with the city. So when looking at it, we say, okay, where can material misstatements occur? And so we've identified posting of manual entries, improper authorization of expenditures through the accounts payable process, improper disbursements of payroll expenditures, and then manipulation of utility rates to inflate revenues. Again, no findings noted with that one. And then significant accounting practices. There's no new accounting pronouncements this year. Next year you will have GASB 101 related to compensated absences, but there was nothing this year that we had to implement. Significant accounting estimates. The city has various accounting estimates, including your allowance, estimates related to your pension and OPEB liabilities, and then fixed assets, but none of those we really consider to be significant. And then similarly, there's no significant financial statement disclosures that we need to disclose. And then we didn't encounter any difficulties during the audit. We are required to disclose our uncorrected misstatements. There's an extra corrected in there. And then our corrected misstatements. So uncorrected misstatements are just misstatements that we've identified that are above what we call a trivial threshold, but not material. And so we had one entry where we passed on an entry to correct CDBG beginning fund balance. I will note that Tracy identified this error to us and let us know. This entry just moves it to the current year rather than booking to the beginning balance, booking as a prior period adjustment, essentially. And then our corrected misstatement is the misstatement that we identified previously with the notes payable, retainage, and correcting the accounts receivable for utility funds. Again, there's no disagreements with management. We had no consultations with other accountants. We did have a significant deficiency related to internal controls and the material weakness related to the audit entries. As far as other information in the report, the city prepares an ACFR, which essentially has extra information on it compared to a normal AFR. So the introduction section that includes the transmittal letter and the MD&A, and also the statistical section that includes the demographic information and historical statements are not required, but the city chooses to put those in there. That's really just to mention that, the city's kind of going above and beyond to prepare the ACFR. And then modifications of our auditor's report, again, we just have the emphasis of matter for the prior period adjustment and restatement of beginning net position. And that's all I have. If y'all have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
I have a few.
Let me start because I've got the
Sure.
softball questions.
Okay.
She's going to throw, it's going to be
They're very reasonable
high
questions.
and fast. So let me get you warmed up with mine. You've talked several times about turnover issues. Do you believe that there are now, with the changes that have been implemented, that there are adequate personnel in the finance office in terms of numbers of people assigned to the different tasks, so that you have enough people who are double checking or validating the proposed work that other people have, or do we need to increase the staff in that area?
Well, we'll be able to tell for next year. I think some of the changes happened after our fiscal year end of that we were auditing. From what I've heard from Tracy, I think they're fully staffed now, which should help mitigate those issues. And then she's also put into place more of controls on the IT side that kind of cuts that off from the beginning.
So we don't know. It's too early.
I won't be able to tell now. Yeah.
The second question I have is about demographics. You mentioned that that's not something that's ordinarily required. We have repeatedly seen a variance between the census numbers and the numbers that the city staff has come up with for our total city population. Do you have any opinion about what the underlying cause of that variance is, and which numbers are closer to reflecting underground reality?
So the demographic information we actually receive from the finance department, which I think they compile it from various departments themselves. For the statistical section, we actually don't audit that section. That is, you can see it in the opinion letter that and the beginning of the statistical section where it says unaudited. So I honestly cannot answer specifically to those numbers themselves.
Okay, thank you. Now the tough questions.
I would just like an explanation of how did you identify the adjustments that you needed to make for notes payable, fund balance, and the retainage?
Yes. So for the notes payable, it's part of an agreement. So it's a payment schedule. So really, we're just tracking based on that. And then the PCDC is paying the city along that schedule. So we just use the agreement for that one. The retainage payable, like I mentioned, the Munis has the capability to track retainage payable with its construction projects, which I think was just implemented this year. So we got a listing of those from Tracy, and we tested the balance on there by pulling invoices. And then we also do a test where we look at your outstanding construction projects and say, okay, this potentially has retainage. Let's go ahead and pull this project, look at it, and see whether or not there's additional retainage that we have to book. So we essentially audit Tracy's schedule.
Okay. So we have, because I didn't see retainage in the previous financial statement. So is that not something that's done every year?
It should be done every year. Yes. I don't think it was booked in the previous year.
And so it's not material to do a prior period adjustment for that?
Yeah. We did look at also 2023's balances to make sure that they were not material to require a restatement of beginning net position.
Okay. And I would just like more of an explanation of new items that were not previously included in the financial statements or the city budget that I could find, which is arbitrage, leases payable, and subscription liability.
So this is for the budget? Or
no, it was on the statement of net position,
Okay.
but it wasn't included in the previous financial statements or the budget.
So leases and subscriptions, which we call SEBITAs, GASB 87 was implemented 2 years ago, and GASB 96 was implemented last year. Both recognized a right of use asset for any lease agreements and subscriptions, and also the lease and subscription liabilities for the financial statements. I do believe that they were on the financials. They might have been consolidated into a line item or something like that, but they were there last year as well.
Okay. I didn't see them specifically called out.
Yeah, so I think they might have been consolidated into one row in the previous year.
So what was the reason to specifically call it out this, or to list it out this year?
So the city submits their ACFR to the GFOA basically they assess your financial statements and they'll give you an award for financial reporting excellence. And one of the comments they mentioned, they wanted to see in some of the schedules subscriptions and leases clearly identified. So those were broken out just to assist the GFOA.
So for greater transparency?
Yeah.
Okay. And what about arbitrage?
So arbitrage was actually new this year. And that kind of, that relates to increasing interest rates on your bonds. So arbitrage liability is the excess of interest revenues that you've earned on those bonds. It's required to pay that back to the bond holders or the banks. And the city does a arbitrage assessment every year. So as part of the audit, it is looked at. If it's not material, it won't be booked. This year it was material, so it was recorded.
Okay, so because we made a lot of interest earnings, they became material.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And then I had a couple of items about just presentation and whether it's something that we could change the presentation to make it more transparent for the regular everyday user if they wanted to look at an audit report. I noticed that in the statement of net position, we didn't segregate current versus non-current for assets and liabilities, but in the proprietary funds it is, and in the summary it says current and other assets and then breaks out capital assets. So there's kind of not consistency between those, and I understand that it's not required to be broken out that way, but I do feel that it's important to do the calculation for people instead of make them do the mental math of what's current and not current, just to make sure that you can see that the city does have enough current assets to cover their current liabilities. Is that something that could change in presentation in the future?
Yeah, we can implement that change. It shouldn't be, honestly, the way that it's listed is by liquidity, so it's just a matter of adding summations to the financials, which we can implement in the future.
It's just when you have like 15 line items, it's hard for the eye to do that. So, and then the other one, or two other ones, in the water and wastewater statement of net position, all of the restricted cash for the bond accounts is classified as non-current, which gives 21 million in current assets and 63 million in current liabilities, which is not a good ratio. But I believe that there is probably restricted cash in the bond accounts that's actually set aside to pay the bond liabilities. And so I was just wondering why it wasn't broken out between current and non-current.
Yeah, by default, the restricted cash investment is typically put into non-current just because you can't use it for your current operations. But if there are current liabilities that are going to be paid with those, they should be marked as current. And I think I was looking at this with Tracy earlier today, and that's actually a change we could probably implement fairly easily.
I mean, if just, general users who aren't used to government, if they looked at that, the current ratio less than 1 would be concerning.
Yeah.
And then I had a couple of questions on the budget versus actual, and I believe that it's a decision about how we present it, and just was wanting to get your feedback on that. Is in our budget, we do present some information in natural classification like personnel and operating costs, but in the financials, it's only by department. So it's very hard when you actually have final numbers for 24, but you only have projected numbers in the budget to actually, be able to reconcile those two. So is it possible to have a budget versus actual that includes natural classifications so we can actually see how much is spent on personnel, how much is spent on operating costs and those things? Because the revenue is broken out by natural classification, but the expenses aren't.
So the expenses are broken out by department because that's the budgetary level of control, and that's really why it's done that way. It's possible we can do that. I have done it before. It just depends. If the schedule itself turns out to be an extra 3 or 4 pages, it ends up being cumbersome for some of the readers. So it kind of depends. It is possible we can do that, implement that in the future, and take a look at adding that. It wouldn't be.
We could do it as like an overall fund, not like department by department, but overall, here's personnel for all departments. Or it could be just a one-pager. It's something we can,
Okay.
I guess.
Yeah,
discuss.
I would like to talk to you next year about it. This is
Okay.
Good
That's the way my mind works. You see all the departments, but you have no idea how much is spent on salaries and benefits. And I think it's helpful and more transparent to show that information so that the public does understand that a lot of our budget goes towards our people. And, and when it comes to budget time, about how you can budget those items, I think it's informative.
Yeah, we can definitely look at that next year and see if it's feasible. I think it would just be adding another supplementary schedule if possible.
Okay, sorry for all the questions, but I'm digging deep, my first year. Then I had a question. In the water and wastewater, we didn't present a budget to actual, whereas in the general funds we did. Is there a reason to not provide that?
It's not required to present. Any of the enterprise funds, so all your full accrual statements, you're not required to present a budget to actual schedule.
Okay, because those are more along the lines of a regular commercial business and how you. Okay, so it could be added, it's just not required?
Correct.
Or, okay, so that's something we could talk about in the future?
It is.
And then I think it may be my last question. Can you explain how you discovered the material weaknesses?
So for started with retainage. That is, again, as part of the GFOA submission, we have what we call a net investment in capital assets calculation. So it's a category of your net position, and part of that includes looking at any. This is a thorough answer, but it's taking your investment in capital assets, so your fixed assets, minus any debt related to those assets, minus any liabilities related to those assets, and then adding back in any unspent bond proceeds. So as part of that, we always take out retainage. And so we really inquired about where the retainage is being recorded because we couldn't see it. And then in addition to that, when we do our fixed assets testing, we do sample of transactions and additions. And so when we pull a pay app, we can see, there's supposed to be retainage, but the amount going into CIP is less retainage. So that's how we identify retainage payable. For the note related to the PCDC, that's really just we were reviewing agreements between the PCDC and city and the previous financial statements, and we found that agreement. And then Tracy helped us find the other ones because you have several agreements with the PCDC to repay debt. And then for the utility receivables, we do substantive analytics. So we look at what we expect receivables to be, and receivables for the solid waste fund were significantly low. And so we asked about that, and we kind of discovered that it was missing the beginning balance for receivables.
And do you feel the recommendations on the corrective action are sufficient?
Yes, I believe so. I think that should just establishing further controls over the year-end close. I think we'll figure out, we'll identify any future issues or potential issues and make adjustments accordingly.
Thank you. I did have just a couple of other comments, and I have provided this information to city staff, and we have some meetings scheduled about financial transparency. But I did want to take the time to say that I would like to see quarterly financial statements on and a presentation on our agenda to discuss. Looking at not only the budget and actual, but the balance sheet, which is where all of these material misstatements, or how the terminology you're using, where those were found is through the balance sheet. And then I'd also like a monthly budget to actual that includes the calculation of the net excess or deficiency of revenue over and under expenditures to at least be on the consent agenda so that we have transparency to our public to have that information there. And then also, related to the PF 101, there are vacancies on the Finance and Budget Committee because this doesn't exist right now. And I feel it is important to have community leaders also looking at this information, not only for informational purposes. That's where I started in getting to know about the city, and it was a very good learning experience. And so I feel like I would like to see more efforts to recruit for those positions. And then just personally, I would like more than 3 days to review the audit report. So if there's a way that we can at least have a week, because I am one that I'm going to read all the pages, and I wasn't able to do it just because it was spring break last week, and I just had one night to do it. So I would like, I don't know if there is a specific deadline that it had to be done tonight because the report wasn't actually final that we received at the time of the agenda. So if we could have more time with an actual final report or more time with the draft, because I know I did send some comments and I believe there might be a couple of minor changes that will be made. Those are my requests for financial transparency. Thank you.
All right. We're good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tracy, are we done? Okay. All right.
This is a resolution for action.
Move to approve the resolution.
Second.
All right. Motion almost carried unanimously.
It's okay.
It was carried. Motion carried. All right, and we do have one item left from the executive session regarding the, let's see, the right-of-way and access property. And I believe we have a motion. Mayor Pro Tem.
I'll make a motion to authorize city staff and city attorney to take any and all action necessary to secure the right-of-way and access to real property for the purpose of conducting a survey and any other testing as needed for the 30-inch SH 130 water line project.
Second.
Strong motion. Solid motion.
Okay. Motion carried. And then we have item 5G.
Yes, sir. 5G is approving the purchase and installation of new playground equipment at Barleyfield Park in the amount of $104,849.55 and authorizing the city manager to execute the same.
That's right.
I would like to see the presentation.
Okay.
Okay, Shane.
Unpack your stuff.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So we're bringing a request for a playground replacement at Barleyfield Park. Barleyfield Park, you can see the park on the left. On the right, you can see where it lays out in the map. If you look in the bottom left corner, you can see Lone Star Ranch Boulevard connecting to Falcon Point Boulevard. That is Central Park. So Barleyfield Pass is it's a 0.5 acre park that you would have to follow towards the middle school, and then you hang a right on Barleyfield Pass Road, and it's right there on your right. We're requesting funds out of the capital outlay. This is a rendering of the playground replacement. As I showed earlier, the park is located in the Falcon Point subdivision. It's currently 18 years old. The replacement would be about $105,000.
Shane, real quick, you say that one's 18 years old. What's the expected useful life on that playground equipment?
So the industry standard's been 15.
That's 15.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we're past the industry standard of replacement.
Okay.
It's a Burke playground. It's in pretty good shape still, but it is now our second oldest playground in our park system, only with Old Town Park, which we're working on a master plan for. So as far as something that's attached to any type of plan, it's the oldest park right now, our park playground in our park system.
Okay. Thank you.
Is there actually anything wrong with, is it like, with the playground equipment? Is it deteriorating? Is it not, are there any repairs that are needed?
We repair it, we do checks on it quarterly, and it's passed all of our safety inspections since we realized it was, Falcon Point released the maintenance of some of those parklands that they had. We had about a 20-year agreement, 20-year run with Falcon Point where they were taking care of some of that. And so we've taken that over. So the last couple of safety inspections it's passed, it's required some bolts tightening, things like that. But it is at the age of replacement.
So my concern is advocating for the people who don't have a park. And so if we spend money on parks that are still functional and in good use, I didn't get the pictures until I was here, so I'm not seeing a lot of difference in the park equipment that's being proposed to what's existing. I just feel that perhaps our money would be better used in developing an undeveloped park rather than replacing a functional neighborhood park. I had never heard of this park. I brought it to you. I was like, where is this park? It's not on the city website. When I did the Google Maps, I couldn't see a sign that said it was a city park.
Yeah.
So I even wonder if people know it is. They might just think it's an HOA park. But really, I'm just advocating for an undeveloped park, and I would rather delay replacement of a functional park and put that money towards an undeveloped park where people aren't, they're not in the 80 or 90% in walkable distance to a park.
Yeah, absolutely. So 80, I think we're at 82 or 83% of our population is in a 10-minute walk to a park. Over 90% is within a 10-minute walk to a trail. This is one of the, cheaper playground replacements I've brought you over the last 4.5 years. In fact, I think it's only the second or third. There's only two others that have been more expensive than this. But I think if we would be developing undeveloped parkland, we would need a new plan for that would go and evaluate. I don't want to say that we have 1,700, almost 1,800 acres of parkland total. We would never develop all of it.
Sure.
You wouldn't develop all of it. Some of it is great for loading water on and off safely. Some of it's great for these coyotes that we're pushing to different areas of our city. There's a lot of nature that uses our undeveloped parkland. So I think if that was the next step, we would probably need to look at some sort of new undeveloped parkland. Y'all did one in 2013 and had 12 playgrounds, 6 of them, 5 to 6 were ticked off in the first bond that came after that. I think that was 2016. We're currently working on the last of those playgrounds. I'm an advocate of parks and making sure 100% of our population is within a 10-minute walk, and would love to develop. I would love to get parks to all of our community. But for this one in particular, it is within our standard that we would replace after 15. And we, as a staff and y'all as a leadership group, have embraced that it doesn't matter where you live or your parents' income value, or that you have access to a quality park system. And so we have been working off, it's an Excel document right now, so I can't really show it to you, but I have a list here of every playground that we have, its age, and as soon as we put it in, when it needs to be replaced. And so Central Park, for example, won't be replaced again until 2040, 15 years after we put it in this year. But this one's 18 years old, so that's why we're bringing it to you today.
Is this part of a bond?
Nope. This is it. It wasn't part of the original capital outlay. We were able to get Central Park done with Parkland escrow dollars, so we were able to move that into the developer fund because of some of the amenities, specifically the disc golf. And so this allowed us to put this on capital outlay. It would have been on next year's capital outlay request. We were able to move it to this year's capital outlay.
Could you tell me that spreadsheet you've got there? Man, I love spreadsheets. Could you tell me the next 3 years, how many parks in each of those years are we looking at needing to replace? And the reason I ask is because I think you tell me if after we replace this one, our average age is 5 years?
Yeah.
5 point something?
We're at 5.3 right now. This gets us to 4.89.
So I feel like if we're looking at at letting parks go for 15 years,
sure,
we might have some downtime in there. We might have some years where we're not doing, and we can focus
You're absolutely
on new parks.
a graph fan. You're absolutely correct. So Old Town Park's 20 years old. Barley Field's 18. Cambridge Estates is 17. That's due for replacement. We'll be bringing that to y'all. Lake Pflugerville Park, the north, is due to replacement. We'll be bringing that to y'all. After those, our next park playground is 10 years old at Black Locust. So we'd have potential.
We'll have a good 5 years of new park development.
Yep, potential
Or
undeveloped.
we can get the people who don't have access to a park earlier and delay a functional park for a couple of years. And I'm specifically thinking about its flat land.
I was about to say, you've got something in
New
mind.
Meister. There, I thought it was 5 acres when I found Barley Field on the GIS map. After half an hour of looking, it's 8 acres I think on New Meister and Springbrook. Springbrook.
Yeah.
There's it's next to the apartments. There's 8 acres.
Yep.
It's a flat land, so there's not, there's no creeks and trees or anything. So that I think would be a good place to put money to providing a new park for those residents.
So that's right off frontage, right? That road.
Is that a regional park planned for New Meister?
It wouldn't have parking or restrooms, and it wouldn't have a regional park amenity. So as of right now,
Okay.
I wouldn't want to mitigate the pros and cons of New Meister's Park right here at the dais, and I definitely would want to lean into professionals who gave us a recommendation on that. It is off a busy road. It backs up to the apartment complex, so we'd have to get some sort of apartment complex access, and then the neighborhood is on the back side of it. So it's got some, not weird, but definitely some access issues we'd have to work on. But that's the great thing about a new plan, and we can totally bring that to you in the budgetary process for the next round of undeveloped parkland, and see if y'all approve it. They do a holistic look at all of our undeveloped parkland and see what is the next candidate.
So Shane, that's what I was talking about. I don't think it's a mutually exclusive thing. I think that, as you said, okay, look for specific areas from that, even though you said about 82% of our population is within, within
Jeff,
walking distance.
what is the number? Is it 84? 82.
82% is within a walking distance. As Doug just pointed out, is we're going to have some downtime, so it doesn't mean that we can't go into that. That plan is from 2013, and so we're just finishing that out, from there.
That's a long time they've been waiting.
But
12 years.
But that's why I don't think it's mutually exclusive. You go ahead and remedy this, and I guess, Shane, I do want to hear some things about why 15 years is that threshold and what may occur from that and why we constantly do from that. But I feel like sometimes we act like we can't walk and chew gum at the same time.
Sure.
And so, yeah.
I was going to use that
as well.
euphemism. Yeah, absolutely. And I know I've been advocating for some additional source of funds for parks. So walking and chewing gum, I think we can maintain our old parks. We can ensure that we have quality parks for all the people in our city. And we can also work towards building those new parks and ensuring access to the other 18% of people who aren't within that walking distance. I think we can do all that.
Yeah.
In what timeline though? So it has been 12 years, and I advocated for that undeveloped park study because we didn't even have a plan. And so it has been 12 years since that happened on the Parks and Rec Commission. So I think it's been a long time. And even with the bond in 2020, we're only starting some of those undeveloped parks now, 4 and 5 years later. So I guess it just seems like we can wait a long time on this. Every dollar counts. Like, what is the rush? I've already said, I feel it's a functional park. And so I don't think we should just replace it because there's some sort of data point. My HOA park, we're going to go as long as it's still functional and there's no problems. And whether that's 20 years because you have a shade structure that actually protects it and extends the life of that playscape, then you can go 20 years, or more with a, as long as.
But that's your opinion. And you're not the one that necessarily makes the decision whether it's going to happen.
The shade cover vendors, their studies show that's one of the reasons why I advocaate for shade covers is to extend the life of our assets.
I'm not disputing that. I'm saying that you're saying we're going to keep going for that. And you know very well, particularly when you come to HOAs and those decisions, it depends on who's over there having those conversations. What I'm saying is that if we're having this conversation, and yes, you're right, 12 years, right, from that, it's a time to go ahead and have that conversation again. But I also want to push back a little bit about you're saying, hey, wait a minute, we haven't done this, and we had this bond executed right there. We're also having to keep in mind what we want is the tax rate. So what are we doing regarding these bond funds? We want to release them and how we work from that and make sense from there. So you don't want to overload folks over there too much, particularly we're looking at other issues that folks are going to pay for, particularly given the fact that what's happened with our water rates because how expensive it is to actually go ahead and transport water. And I think people would find it, listen, I want to be able to flush my toilets and have clean water as opposed to some of the things that happen, in other cities and other areas for that. So it's a balance. And I think that in this instance, this is good. This is right here at the same time. Yes, let's look at a plan. It's budget season. Go ahead and see what that would look like for a plan on this.
And PCBC.
All parks are not created equal. Yeah. All parks don't have equal usage. I assume this is a recent photograph?
No,
this one's
this is what it's going to look like. This is what it looks like.
Oh, this is what it looks like today. Okay. Yeah. So the other one is.
Whoa. That looks like 18 years ago.
I will say that we've replaced, I believe, 22 playgrounds in my 5.5 years and 16 shade structures. As far as the bond thing, there's obviously a capacity. They pass in the fall of 2020. We don't even start pulling them until 2021, and we start working on trails and other projects. There's always going to be something that's on the back end of that bond window. We're excited about the parks that we're bringing on off the undeveloped. But I do believe that we should continue to work off the list that we have and the list we've been working on for the last 4 or 5 years to replace aging infrastructure. And I wouldn't want to be up here and make a recommendation. Industry standards are based on warranty, insurance that cities carry, and the amount of when the infrastructure starts to deteriorate. And I wouldn't want to be up here and something happening at that playground and us know that playground was a couple years past industry standard. So that's why we're here tonight.
But a playground that gets a lot of use wears out faster.
Absolutely. Texas Sun will wear it out either way. But you're right.
There's some truth to that. This is a playground that's kind of tucked away back in the corner.
I wouldn't say it's in a corner. It's in the center.
I mean, you see it right here.
It's not like Central Park.
There are houses even further in every direction.
Yeah.
Well,
it's on the way to school for half the kids in that.
I guess it's relative for
you used to live in Falcon Park.
I can see my old house.
Yeah.
Is this an area where there are kids there every day, or is it
it's the playground my daughter played on.
Once a week?
He literally just said that.
Yeah.
He had people walk by, going to school, going by this playground. His daughter played on this playground.
Walk by the playground. Do they go into the playground, or they just keep walking?
Will there be a sign that says it's a city
I'll make
park?
a motion to approve 5G.
Next time you get
Second, I have a motion to approve this item and a second.
Third, fourth.
And I apologize. Who made that motion?
Kimberly made the motion. Caesar second.
Yeah.
All right, motion carried. Thank you very much. Thank you. And I believe that's it, folks.
Okay, Courtney.
I'm looking for these.
Whoop, whoop, whoop.